So hi, like last video I just talked about like DNS, but I explained DNS concept integrated with the browser thing, example DNS lookup, those kind of thing. But right now I'm just gonna explain the thing that I studied. Before like explain those kind of DNS thing, let me just try to give like the history, like a really bit slide of history. The DNS was kind of replacement for the like it was like replacement for that etc that host. Before even like I think before in even 90s, and there was already computer. Um, there was computer and there some really minimum people using computer, and there was not just there's no such a thing as DNS thing. So what do you mean by that? So there's no DNS thing. It's just the us just trying to open, just us trying to open the computer, and when so it was just like localhost, but since we need some kind of IP address that user can found because user have to get the IP address that your if your sorry the user have to get other people can have to get the IP addresses of your website. So there's no such a thing as DNS. It's just the dot etc dot not slash dot etc dot host file that this thing indicates your IP address of it. So it was like if you just turn off the computer, there's no. So but nowadays there's something like the interesting about DNS. Like I just know about DNS like it's just these bunch of the servers, but with the cloud. But I found that it just did three. Example, I'm reading this slide here because I study with the slide. .net, so .com, .org. Inside, let's just say using .com. .com we have example, or .net is gonna be ENS servers. A and B and C. Like last video, I just talked about here the top level domain system is the root of it, and the after the second level domain system is there are the .net, .com, .org, and a lot of other things. Um, so how about this part, the ENS server? ENS server is actually the join of it, and that integrates with your domain, and this also indicates your name server of it. The name server is kind of important because what we know is where we when you're trying to do the DNS lookup, you were able to find the IP address, but IP address is just it's not the thing you can easily get. There's could be zone of your name server. Name server is just it has the information of your IP address paired with your domain. So name server is the weird thing. And name server can have lots of name. So and this and if you have a lot of name server or this replacement could be good because if it is crash there's could be fallback, and if there's more fallback you'll be good, but there could be more latency because that would cause for more DNS lookup cost. So DNS reserver, I just say just like I just said, it's just the phone book. I just know about the DNS reservoir. It's just the phone book that has the IP address and whatever stuff. But in fact, the DNS reservoir it's not DNS reservoir. It's not really um, phone book. It's not really just the thing of the phone book. I just trying to match with the phone book with the DNS reservoir, but I found out that is not. So what is kind of DNS reservoir thing? Um, DNS reservoir is is kind of really it has the minimum information of your DNS tree and root in your DNS tree and root server IP address. It doesn't have the multiple IP address that pairs with your domain. It's just the thing that it tells your direction for the DNS lookup. So that's called a primary query. And in .NET, there's gonna be the ENS server. So that's called the name server. I just say name server is just has information about the domain, the IP address of your domain. But the problem is that ENS server has the IP address of your domain, but if you're trying to find whatever um, ENS server.net, you require some kind of IP address, but in fact the ENS server that don't have IP address, name server, but that's okay. But what if how do you really find the ENS server's IP address? Because that's kind of really kind of okay. If you're trying to find the ENS.net, you have to go to ENS servers names of the name NS, which is called the name server. But since you also have to find the name servers, name the one who pointing name server. So that's kind of really example of the which comes first, the egg first or the chicken first. But right now we handle this by giving just the IP address with the pairs of it. We just sync with the IP address that. And that so this kind of thing. And I just read and that's also called the gluing, that we are not trying to find the problem of, so that's kind of cause the infinite loop, but we try to include the glue that there will be no loop of trying to find the IP address, but actually you guys are pointing at the trigger. So and DNS, I think the most important part of DNS is the records and the part of DNS DNS part is, I think, the name server and those kind of thing, or I think records and record type. The reason why it's kind of important is because when you're trying to launch the service, you might have alpha server, and of course there's gonna be no beta, so because the startup doesn't have matter that much, so that's gonna be production or live. So to split this kind of alpha and live, you have to also give the your domain, but that has to be separate. Example, alpha that example.com, and this domain is gonna be example.com because that's the live. Since we can just use CNAME for naming those kind of thing, and to assign these different URLs, so that we can just split the domain based on our environment. But I know this kind of not really used to, for not really unfriendly with the person who never had experience of working, even decided, but that thing is kind of really huge. So yeah, that's called the CNAME. So these CNAMEs are, it's just the alias of the other three element. Example, there's an example here, and what I know us is alpha and the live. So based on this kind of CNAME, you can just assign your other server, because your alpha server, your client alpha server has to be different than live server. And now if it's like the production, you have to put into live the IP address with the live server into production. So how about the dnames? Dnames is mostly kind of really the group of your join of it ns name server, because um your example is art legacy dot example dot com. But if you want to try to migrate into another um, domain like new dot example dot com, you can just use dname to the pointing this another domain name system. So that's kind of really thing that you can just look on it. So now recap: the DNS is not just the DNS server is not just the phone book. It's just a thing that helps you um, to go to have the direction of one DNS lookup, and the CNAME and DNAME is kind of different because CNAME is kind of really for the splitting per environment, but DNAME is mostly used for the just putting the selecting whole of the group and putting into the other um, new group of your domain. So I think this is it. Have a nice day. See you next time. Bye bye.